All right, we're going to get started. I want to say good morning to each of you. Antoine Thompson, Executive Director, Greater Washington Region, Clean Cities. We're excited for you all to be here today. We have a lot of great folks that will be speaking with you today. We are next year will be the 30th year for the Clean Cities organizations around the country. And so we'll look forward to a lot of great events, projects, and activities. Just want to make a couple quick announcements before we get into the program and I introduce all the speakers. First, can everyone that's not going to be a speaker mute so we don't have to automatically mute you? Please do that. And good morning to Barry Carr from New York. Good to see you as well. And we got a lot of great folks on here. We have a couple more events we're doing before the end of the year. This year is rapidly coming to a close. It's December 8th. But we do have two other events next week. We will have a listening session on electric school buses where we'll be listening to some of the challenges and opportunities from school districts, transportation officials, some of the utility companies, and also some of the obviously for some of the school transportation folks. So we're looking forward to that on Tuesday. Next Thursday, I believe at 2 o'clock, we'll have a nice webinar on EV charging and multifamily units. We'll talk with property managers and building owners next week and provide some good information for them as well. A lot of opportunities for access to charging, a lot of education that's needed, a lot of technical support that's needed as we continue to expand EV charging opportunities. The next thing I wanted to mention, sometime within the next week, we'll announce our opening reception, which will kick off the year for us in January. Well, it'll be in February, but we'll have a number of events before that we'll be announcing sometime the first week of January. So we have a very robust agenda for 2023. I wanted to, just before I introduce the speakers, mention that this program, I want to also acknowledge Bruce, who is with our sister brother organization with Virginia Clean Cities. They are a key partner with us on the Mid-Atlantic Electrification Project. Bruce, did you want to say anything on behalf of Virginia Clean Cities?
Sure, thanks, Antoine. Greater Washington Clean Cities is such a great partner, and we're just so pleased they're putting on this program as well as the other two webinars next week. They're very timely and encourage you all to attend those. And yeah, this is a much needed webinar just to get the word out there about the opportunities of the Mid-Atlantic Electrification Partnership. So thank you, Antoine and team, for putting this on. Looking forward to it.
Thank you. Thank you. So I want to also acknowledge, I see one of our good EV advocates. I thought I saw his name earlier, Bob Erdman, who is with the Electric Vehicle Association. I always mess up the name, but Bob, you want to say hello? He is the grassroots group that's working with EV drivers and doing education, and we collaborated on a couple of events. He sent some folks out, bringing their EVs out for us earlier this year. I'm not sure if Bob has a chance to say anything, but thank you, Bob, for being here. This program is a really important program. It's a 3-year program that is funded by the U.S. Department of Energy. And one of the big things that we are doing is making sure that we are more aggressive going into 2023 and identifying sites, and you'll hear a lot about the program in a minute, but there's also an equity component that we collaborate with a group called EV Hybrid Noir, and we'll have them on a panel to talk as we talk about the programs and more. But this is an excellent opportunity. There was an article that just came out yesterday, and you can go to our LinkedIn page and see it. But the alarming issue about the article was underserved communities, particularly Black and Latino communities, need a lot of education and outreach because even with incentives, according to this Ipsos survey, the article said that many communities of color will be less incentives alone will not get communities of color to purchase EVs. So there is a lot of work that needs to do, ride and drives, education, business opportunities, et cetera, are going to be really, really important. I also want to flag one of our board members who was on, Cheryl Pons, who is with Diatech Corp, was president, CEO, who's going all over the country installing EVs, charging stations as well. I also like to recognize Edwin from Citizen Energy, who has a Latino center organization and company that is all over the country working to get EV charging in Hispanic communities and Latino communities, especially in this region as well. I had the opportunity to go to a facility in Alexandria, of the Fairfax County part of Alexandria last week, and I've always been in the Arlington side, and I was just amazed at the economic disparities that exist in that side, which is largely Latino. And so Edwin, I want you to know I thought about you when I was on this tour at this Wish Center where we're doing a job fair next year. And I thought about you and I said, we got a lot of work to do as we try to improve and enhance EV access as well. So without further ado, I want to let you all know that we're going to do, we've been doing a lot of outreach. I want to thank Miekeyla, who was at our first outreach event out in the streets this year. Pepco brought their car. I want to thank you. And we did a ton of them, and we got a lot more to do. And so there's a lot of opportunities in this program that you can sign up, and we'll get into some of those things before the meeting's over. I want to just run through really quickly. Andrew Hillman, Executive Sales Manager, leading the charge in the Mid-Atlantic region. He's an experienced sales leader with strong technical knowledge of the EV industry. He's responsible for both level 2 and DC fast charger sales. Key leader on this project for the Mid-Atlantic. So he has worked with management Mid-Atlantic Electrification Partnership and Network, and with many of the leaders from Virginia, West Virginia, DC, and Delaware. Miekeyla Stanton is a dedicated and certified project management professional like my wife, with 10 years of experience as a project manager. She's overseeing the District of Columbia's division of the EVSmart programs, is considered the subject matter expert of the policies and procedures, and she is helping to lead our DC effort for our charging hubs, right? So Reverend Gilbert, you know, all those folks you know in DC, she's the one we got to get to put those sites up, right? So her, you, and we got to get her some sites because she needs sites for those DC fast chargers. Also, Ira Dorfman is a senior advisor for Greater Washington Region Clean Cities, former my immediate successor as well, former Capitol Hill staffer, business person as well, and a EV infrastructure expert as well. So we have a great panel, and I'm going to start with make sure, Ken, we can put in the chat that we encourage everyone who's not a member to become a member for 2023, and they can put their membership in today. We'd love for you to become a member. I see a lot of folks on here that I know they're not members. So become a member today. So Andrew, the floor is yours, and I'll turn it over to you and Kim so you can do your presentation.
Well, thank you, Antoine. It's a pleasure to be here this morning, and it's a pleasure to be working with such great team members who are involved in this project, from our partners on the utility side, like Miekeyla with Pepco, Bruce over at Virginia Clean Cities, Ira, your predecessor there, so many great people involved in this project, and that's what makes it really a pleasure. And to expand the EV footprint, is super excited to be a member of the Mid-Atlantic Electrification Partnership, and I'm honored to be here today to be able to speak a little bit more about it. So, well, thank you very much for bringing up the presentation there, Kimberly, and we'll go ahead and go to the next slide here. And I'll tell you, first of all, walk you through a few steps about applying for the Mid-Atlantic Electrification Partnership grant. That's a mouthful. With Blink, and then as we go on, I'll tell you a little bit more about Blink itself, so you can learn about our history and what we're doing in the electrification space. Okay, Kimberly. And this is what I send out to anyone who's interested in becoming a site host for level 2 electric vehicle charging. It's a simple process. We send you this slideshow for anyone that we're reaching out to or reaches out to us initially. Just so that the host knows the steps that are involved. Since this is a grant, there is a process where a site has to be reviewed by Virginia Clean Cities, by the Department of Energy. Blink does all of that work in the background in coordination with VCC and the Department of Energy to get these sites reviewed and approved and schedule the installation. So we've gotten so many requests for the program that we've set up this new presentation just to give everyone a good idea of sort of the time frame that's involved from the first time you speak with us until we can get some chargers in the ground at your location and get those up and running. Okay, Kimberly. We've got some nice common questions and answers here that we like to put in the presentation. We first talked to a prospective site host. There are a lot of questions that we get over and over again. So we've tried to answer a few of those here. So what makes the Mid-Atlantic grant special is that it's a public-private partnership. So the Department of Energy is providing up to $3,500 per charging port. And that helps with one of the biggest obstacles to EVSE deployment these days. With rising costs, with inflation and so forth, we're all aware of the impact that's had on multiple parts of our lives. And so, having this $3,500 available per charging port really is a big boost and allows us to put electric vehicle service equipment or supply equipment in locations that wouldn't necessarily be viable today. And that helps us to fill these gaps in the EV charging network. EV deserts like the 7th and 8th Ward in DC, locations I've worked with on partners in West Virginia, even rural Virginia, Maryland, and Delaware. There are still locations out there that just don't have sufficient charging. And this program is really pivotal because it allows us to go ahead and deploy equipment today that maybe we wouldn't be able to deploy normally until several years from now when EV adoption, has increased to a higher level. And then the private part of it from our side as an EVSE supplier is that we provide a no charge lease to the property host. And this is really exciting. So a lot of people want to offer electric vehicle charging on their site, but they don't want to be in the charging business. And we don't blame them. It's just another complication to our already complex lives. And so we're going to take care of that for you. We're the EV charging experts. So in this grant, it includes a warranty on all the equipment. So if anything ever happens to it for the 15 years of the lease, which is 3 5-year terms, Blink is going to replace that equipment at no charge to the host. We're covering all the networking fees. This is smart 4G connected networked equipment. And what that means basically as an EV driver is we can see where the equipment is, how much it costs per kilowatt to charge, and if that equipment's available. And we can do all of that in advance. And as an EV driver myself, I can tell you there's nothing worse than pulling up to where a station is supposed to be located and it's not there or it's not working. So we like to have the networked equipment available so that drivers know that they can count on charging when they arrive at their destination. So all of these things are included. There's a 50-50 net revenue share for the property owner as well. So we're going to share 50% of the net revenues from any EV charging that takes place. And in addition to that, we're going to pay 100% of the energy used by the chargers. So whatever your electricity bill is for that month for EV charging, Blink is going to reimburse that to you. So there's no cost to you for electricity, no cost for maintenance, and Blink customer service available to help any EV drivers who have questions. So it's a fantastic program. We've had an overwhelmingly positive response. Bruce can attest to the fact that we've already accounted for all the ports we had available in 2022. We're going to have a blockbuster year again in 2023. I can tell you now that we've got many site hosts lined up for the 2023 funding, and I'm confident that the 2024 funding will be spoken for as well. So really exciting program, and we're very happy to roll this out. Okay, Kimberly, next slide, please. Inside the slide deck here too, you'll see some things I just spoke about, so I won't go over this again, but we make it really clear to the property host everything that's covered in the program, and it's all laid out here item by item so that you can know well in advance what's going to be taken care of under the program with the Mid-Atlantic electrification and Blink charging. Okay, Kimberly. And here we provide you a simple step-by-step process. Completing a one-page site assessment gets the ball rolling. There's an installation quote that we provide at no charge. Of course, there's no charge to the host for the installation, but we do want to know in advance what the installation cost is going to be, make sure the site's viable, because we do have a limited budget. We have some hosts who in advance have contributed over and above what the grant provides. And it's still an amazing value, even if a site has to contribute $1,000 or $2,000 or $3,000 over what the grant provides. It's a significant value because the total investment by all those involved, the Department of Energy, by Blink, it makes it a wonderful opportunity. We get a signed host agreement. That's the 15-year lease that allows us to maintain the equipment and operate and replace it for you. There's a contact sheet. We just need a signed and dated W-9 or a tax-exempt form, depending on your organization, and one power bill so that we can take care of reimbursing you at the correct kilowatt rate. Okay, Kimberly. And you can go to the next slide. And this is just a slide that tells you about our operations. Blink is not just here in the United States, but we're a global operation. We have offices in Amsterdam in the Netherlands, in the United Kingdom as well, with Electric Blue, who's an EV charging provider in the UK, which we acquired earlier this year. We have an office in Tel Aviv in Israel for our Middle East operations. We have LA office where we have a rideshare program. And then we have our headquarters in Miami and a network operations center, warehouse engineering facility all in Tempe. And now with the acquisition of SemaConnect, we have a new facility in Bowie, Maryland. And so we're welcoming the SemaConnect team here on board with Blink. We'll be fully merged coming up here in 2023. So we're very excited about that. And in addition to our engineering operations for software and hardware in Tempe, we have a new office in Delhi, India. So this is a Blink owned and operated facility in Delhi, and it allows us to even more quickly develop new software for our mobile application and new hardware designs as well. So the team in Delhi supplements the work of our team located in Tempe, Arizona. And one thing about Blink too that I'd like to point out is we're the only fully integrated EVSE provider. So we design the hardware, we operate our own network out of Tempe, Arizona, And it's our customer service team in Tempe as well, and now Bowie with the acquisition of Sima. So from the whole process, from hardware to software to network operations, it's all done within Blink. So none of that is farmed out to a second provider. Okay, Kimberly. And you can go to the next slide. And this is just a slide here that shows you some of the equipment options we have available. Again, the Mid-Atlantic Electrification Partnership is for level 2 charging. The great thing about that is the ease of access to 208 to 240 volt power. And with Blink's IQ200 series, we can provide an EV driver up to 19.2 kilowatts of power. This is the maximum amount of power that's permitted under the J1772 standard for the plug. And we are very excited about this because with more and more capable EVs coming onto the market, like the F-150 Lightning Extended Range, those vehicles, more often than not, can take a higher level of power on level 2 charging and convert that AC power into DC power to charge the vehicle batteries. So these new F-150 extended trucks, extended range trucks, can take the full 19.2 kilowatts, which is very important. So we're not just talking about putting level 2 charging in locations where it doesn't exist today, but we're also talking about putting the most capable level 2 charging at 19.2 kilowatts, which oftentimes is over double what level 2 charging was typically being installed at in the past. So, you know, the more energy you can get into the EV faster, the better for the driver and the better for the property host, because the more energy that's getting in that car, the more revenue they can generate from that. And when it comes to revenue, we have flexibility there too. Some nonprofits we work with can't accept revenue. And so we can actually lower that revenue split and reduce the cost per kilowatt in certain areas. So we're very flexible in this program and understand that the cost of energy is a big factor for all of us in transportation. Okay, Kimberly, you can go to the next slide. And this is just a slide that gives you a little bit of information about the advantages. I've spoken to most of this before, so I won't go over every bullet point here. But basically, Blink has got some tremendous advantages in our equipment, with it being networked in real time. Drivers can see what chargers are available, the cost. Our platform is OCPP compliant, so we can actually host other people's platforms on our hardware. So very advanced piece of equipment, and something we're very proud of. Okay,
Andrew, can
Kimberly?
you share with people what OCPP is, so in case they don't know? And can you also explain to people what a level 1, 2, and 3 chargers, because not everyone is knowledgeable of that.
Oh, sure, Antoine, thank you. Yeah, we sometimes you can't see the forest for the trees. You get so into this. So level 1 charging is what you would do at home on a 110 volt outlet in your office, for example. You know, you could plug in a car, charge it that way, but it could take several days. It's very, very slow to charge. It's less than 2 kilowatts typically for a wall charger on a 110 outlet. Level 2 charging moves that up to 208 to 240 volt power. So this is very common in our homes. Dryers run on it, electric water heaters, your range in the kitchen. This is a significant increase in power. So now you can charge a vehicle at, typically at home, it's going to be somewhere from 6 to say 8 kilowatts. And then you can charge an EV overnight. So a huge difference from a couple of days to just being able to charge the vehicle, plug it in when you get home in the garage, have it ready to go in the morning. And then DC fast charging is something that's a whole nother step above. This converts AC to DC current inside the charging cabinet, and then provides DC current directly to the vehicle battery. So this is the most efficient way to charge a vehicle as far as if you're on a road trip or looking to make multiple stops during the day. So this can charge a vehicle from 20% to 80%. The fastest cars in about 15 minutes. More typical would be probably in the 30 to 45 minute stop for a lot of EVs, but that's decreasing every day. So the technology just keeps improving. So thank you, Antoine, for pointing that out. That's very good, just to make sure we cover that. And then this slide here just talks about, again, what I was saying, so I won't belabor the point by going over it again, but the IQ200 is one of the fastest level 2 chargers available with that 19.2 kilowatt output. And that's what we're always striving for, is to put in these chargers at the highest power available. We're very proud to have recently installed 26 level 2 chargers in the White Sulphur Springs area in West Virginia. And those are all at 16.6 kilowatts, which is the maximum power that we can output on the equipment at the 208 volt service that's available. So we continue to expand this network at a very rapid pace. All right, now go ahead to the next slide, please, Kimberly. So this is the end of the presentation. I want to thank everyone on the call today for taking time out of their busy schedule to attend. I'm sure that Kimberly and the team at Greater Washington Regional Clean Cities can make this presentation available to anyone who's interested today. So my thanks to you all for attending, and I'll turn the table back over here to Antoine.
All right, we're going to take all the questions at the end, but I do see that Joe has joined us from Green Lots. Good to see you, Joe.
Thanks, Antoine. Sorry I was late, but
no worries, no worries. Thank you for being here. We're going to hold all questions to the end. Just put them in the chat, and once we get through our next two speakers, we'll start fielding the questions. But one thing before I do that, I don't know if everyone caught the number that Andrew put out there, that their estimate, and everyone has different numbers, but 13 million chargers will be needed by 2030. That's in 8 years, not even 8 years, 7 years. So we're talking about the deployment of a lot of charging just for level 2s between now and 7 years from now. So this is going to be a massive undertaking, and we got to make sure that underserved communities are not left behind. I want to go to Miekeyla Stanton. I often hear these things from folks who think that, there's a 3-step process to install charging. They think they just gotta order the charger, get a vehicle, and then learn how to charge. There's a lot more steps that go into the process, and one of those things is making sure you reach out to your utility company. But also with this project, Pepco and also BGE are really important partners for the program. So we wanted to make sure that our PMP, our project manager from Pepco, gives us some information on what Pepco was doing to advance this project. Miekeyla, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I appreciate you. So yes, we are working on the MAEP project. We are trying to install for taxi rideshare programs, and we're looking for sites to do so. But one of the key things that I think a lot of times we lose sight on when we're trying to invest in something like the infrastructure is, what is the key protocols to be able to get to where we're trying to go? We're trying to install our infrastructure across the world. So there are protocols and requirements that are necessary. A lot of times those protocols are forced. You don't find out until you're in the midst of the weeds. And then you're like, oh my gosh, this is a lot more than I anticipated. And it can become intimidating. So I wanted to take the time to make sure that we understood the step-by-step process. Andrew just went through an entire slide deck of how he does a turnkey process, which is amazing. And it kind of gives you this opportunity of taking a little bit of the weight off your shoulders. But in the event that you're owner of a multi-dwelling unit, or I want to say a car manufacturer, and you might need to have your own proprietary items, you'll notice that there's some different steps that you take. The first thing is you have to make sure that you get your area inspected. You have to also make sure that you have a site inspection. So the area inspection is more so from the DC government. The site inspection is more so from your electrician as well as Pepco. You never know if you might need to have some sort of upgrades to your facility. Many of the facilities that we've looked at for the taxi rideshare program, we are required to not only send out one type of contractor, but another, an engineer, a contractor, and a designer. And what we are doing is we're going out to evaluate what type of power level is there. Is there a current load? If there is a current load, will we put too much pressure on the system? Will something else fail? If something else will fail, how can we expand the current that they're getting so that there's not an issue in the future? So there's so many different steps in minor details that have to be looked at that I want to make sure everybody understands them all. So once you actually are thinking about getting a EV charging station installed at your unit, or even an EV charging station individual EV vehicle, the first thing you would want to do is think, how can I charge this vehicle? Do I want to charge it at home? Is there somewhere located near me? You can go to PlugShare, or there's several different sites you can go to and look to see how many charging stations are in your neighborhood. If you notice that you would rather have it in your home or on your property, or if you're a building owner at your facility, then the next step would be, let me apply for EVSmart program. We do have programs that we work with. We have 35 level 2 chargers and 20 fast chargers, and we are hoping for expansion, but we can't say that there is at this time. But one of the major things that we're trying to do within that program is for multi-dwelling units and for commercial programs here at Pepco, we want to make sure that people are able to have that infrastructure where they need it, when they need it. So we're putting them in the community. For the taxi rideshare program, we're doing the same thing for Lyft drivers and Uber drivers and taxi drivers, so that they have that ability to pick you up in case you aren't going to buy a car, but instead use the service, the rideshare service. For our at-home residential customers who actually happen to have, yes, exactly. Cheryl said that these are considered minor details, but these small things can stop a project. Exactly. For our residential customers, we are giving them a different rate so that they're able, it's called the whole house time of use rate. And we offer this rate so that if you're charging within certain peak and off-peak hours, that you're able to save funds when you're doing off-peak. We have so many different opportunities that we're trying to provide to the community, but there are key innuendos that can possibly happen, and we want to make sure that the community also knows that. So if you have any questions and you're looking to upgrade your home, or you're looking to expand, feel free to reach out to the EVSmart team, and I will put that information in the chat. I'll also make sure that you have it. For the DC region, there's actually different emails for each one, but you can go to pepco.com and then go to the Smart Energy and then choose the EVSmart program. And that'll allow you to see all of the different offerings that we have and be in communication as well. And Antoine, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Also, Laurel or Ira, if you all can put the in the chat the how to sign up for a charging location. Next, I want to go to Ira Dorfman, who is our resident expert on all things EV and has been driving hybrid vehicles for many years. Ira, tell them about the program. We got a lot of chargers to deploy, right? And we need sites.
Yep. Well, that's the simple message. Miekeyla and Andrew have given some really good details, but my message is short and sweet for everybody that's on this call. If you're interested in finding or getting a charging site, the magic is the words real estate. If you talk to any of the our partners like Blink or Green Lots or Pepco, the hardest thing, aside from going through the whole engineering discussion that Miekeyla just laid out, is finding suitable real estate. It's really difficult in the DMV to find suitable sites. So whether there's just not that much real estate available that meets the criteria. So if you are interested and you have a location that you're willing to share with one of our partners, either our formal partners or some of the other EVSCs that are in the space that are also interested parties in our program, such as EVgo and ChargePoint and Volta. What they keep telling us is send us sites that are available, and we will develop charging on those sites as long as they're publicly accessible and meet all the power requirements that Miekeyla just mentioned. So first step for everybody on this call is to fill out that little questionnaire that Antoine just mentioned, and let us know where these locations are so that we can investigate them and hopefully find that they're suitable for charging sites. And if there's one thing that you remember from this call today is that there are a bunch of people that are eager to work with you to put in charging. And as long as you can provide the real estate and make it publicly accessible, there's a reasonable chance that we can work with you to make it happen. That's really basically the message. You know, whether you know, Reverend Gilbert I saw earlier, with the faith-based organizations, we'd love to work with you and find some suitable sites on properties in underserved communities that we could work with. We last year got a call from the city of Laurel, for example, that said, hey, how can we get in on the action? And we explained that message to them, and recently they got back to us, and we're able to install with Blink some sites in Laurel that met those basic criteria. So please just fill out that form. We create this inventory of potential sites, and we will investigate them with you and hopefully be able to work with you. Thanks, Antoine.
Thank you. And so what GWRCCC wants to do in a very aggressive fashion is we will be working with all of you and many others to demonstrate that there is a desire. Right now, the region is rated as one of the top 3 places for electric vehicles and electric vehicle charging. However, that's not true in certain communities. So our role is to get the word out, and we look forward to partnering with you on that. I wanted to give, before we start answering some questions, I want to give Joe just a quick 2 minutes to see if you had anything you want to add, and before we start responding to questions.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Antoine. I appreciate that. I'm happy to also do a presentation as well at some point for the group. But so Green Spot, you know, we're another vendor similar to Blink. We're real estate developers, so we install, operate, and maintain electric vehicle chargers on any type of property. So, you know, to get started with us, you know, similar to what everyone's been talking about, it takes real estate. So if you have property or you have connections to property owners, happy to do a site analysis with them and qualify them for the program. Once they're qualified, we, you know, of course, because there's real estate involved and we're installing infrastructure, by the way, at no cost to the property owner. You know, there's a legal agreement in place. Blink may have mentioned this as well, but you know, you need to work through that agreement. Once an agreement is reached, then we immediately start engineering and developing that project for the property owner. And then in roughly 4 to 6 months, they'll have functional stations on the property. So, you know, basically we're similar in Blink, but we offer slightly different programs. If you want to know the details of those, feel free to reach out to me directly, and happy to set up those calls with you to walk through it. So we appreciate it.
Thank you. And we will take you up on that offer for our January session, okay? Because
All
we'll
right.
be doing these at least once a month. All
Sounds
right.
good.
These are the virtuals. It's not even including the in-person one. I wanted to give, I did see Danielle on from EVNoir. She has been really working with us to do a lot of outreach in underserved areas, especially with some of the HBCUs. Danielle, did you want to say anything really quickly before we start answering the questions?
Hi, thank you so much. If you can hear me, Antoine, thank you. I appreciate not only you shouting out EVNoir, but hosting this Mid-Atlantic Electrification Project webinar.
Thank you. And just if you could just mention, just highlight just how many events we've done over the last year and a half or so.
Oh, absolutely. With the help of not only Greater Washington Clean Cities, but of course, Virginia, West Virginia, Blink, all of our project partners are amazing. We've hosted over, our goal is 24 within the project. And just over the past 18 months, we've done about 20, and that's being conservative. So even the webinars such as today have been beneficial. So our goal with EVNoir, who is the education and outreach lead for the project, is to just amplify the messages of what Pepco, what Blink, what GreenSpot have been doing today. It's just education, outreach, and letting residents, citizens, government entities, etc., know that there's some wonderful programs out there with results to be implemented. So thank you to all, and of course, Virginia Clean Cities, who is leading overall for our Mid-Atlantic Electrification Partnership Project. But on our end, going into 2023, we are going to be working in all communities within the project, meaning.
All right, thank you. So I want to get right into some of the questions. So Andrew and Miekeyla and Ira, we'll get right into the questions here. Get some feedback. Okay, the first question was, let's see here. Which will you discuss post-installation costs? I'm specifically interested in the peak demand charges that make the cost of electricity unit for level 2 financially difficult to compensate with DC fast charging installations. Andrew or Miekeyla, can you respond?
Yeah, I think Miekeyla would be the person to talk on this one. Miekeyla, I'll turn the floor over to you on this.
So right now there is a demand charge, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, good. There are demand charges, and we recognize that there are different charges. We are looking to try to figure out a way to also, offer different options. I want to look at what you're saying. I think you're saying for level 2 financial to go to compete with DC fast charging stations. So are you asking, and this is for Robert, are you asking that whether or not the charging stations are cheaper for L2s? Because usually it is cheaper for L2 charging rate than it is for a DC fast charger. So I was trying to figure that part out. And it also depends on the location of where you are, right? A lot of times the location of the actual site can tend to produce different rates based upon what rates we can offer you. But at this time, as the utility company, I can say, working for the utility company, not as it, but working for the utility company, I can express that we are looking into this and trying to find resolutions.
Yes, thank you very much. If you don't mind, I would like to clarify. Yes, so our association has 6 level 2 charging stations. We have infrastructure to expand it to 11 more. And currently, we've been in operation for the last 8-9 months. And what we found that when 5 cars are charging at the same time, our peak demand charge spiked up that the cost of the electricity per unit was over 42 cents. So that's just the bare minimum to pay for the electricity. And that's the reason, because of the peak demands. But what I'm learning is that the DC fast charging stations or installations, they have a better deal with the utilities, meaning that they are either have some sort of type of a program, pilot program, that do not pay peak demands. So that means that the playing field is not the same for the residential, across, residential systems for condominium or multi-dwelling units. So that was my question, that the cost of the electricity is extremely expensive when you start talking about, more than 2 level 2 charges at the same site.
Question, how is your infrastructure built? Is everything built on its own particular meter? Or is everything, so every charger has its own meter?
No, we have one dedicated meter, 3-phase, 400 amp commercial service dedicated for those EV charging stations.
Okay, do me a favor. Can you I know you can see the little Zoom thing here, the chat. Can you send me your information?
Will do, yes.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. That's why we have the expert, the PMP on the call here. Next question is from Reverend Gilbert. Is the installation only for private parking or for street as well? Andy or Joe, you want to answer that?
Yeah, I'll be happy to speak to that, Antoine. So drop this in the chat. With the Mid-Atlantic Electrification Partnership, the only thing that is required is that the equipment's accessible to the public. At least 16 out of 24 hours a day. I think Bruce could fact check me on that, but I believe that's correct. So it can be installed in above ground garages, subterranean garages, surface lots, or street side. Street side is probably the most complicated, because then you get into issues of who owns the utility pole, rights of way, and things like that. So typically we try to avoid street side unless the municipality that's involved, there's clear ownership, and the parties who own the utility pole are engaged in the process. But to answer his question, as long as the public has it, you can install it. And there is a revenue share as well too. That question came from the same individual. So it's a 50% net revenue share. So as utilization of the equipment grows, your income from that equipment will also grow as well. And again, keep in mind that we're reimbursing for 100% of the electricity. So we're going to take care of the electrical charges that the equipment has incurred. And each piece of our equipment has its own meter on board. So even if this equipment is on a shared meter from the utility provider, from Pepco, for example, you can determine, Blink can determine exactly what part of that electrical cost was consumed by the equipment. And again, for warranty, we're covering the equipment 100%. If anything fails, we're going to replace it at no charge to you. And also the networking charges, which run $18 per charger per month. We're taking care of that as well. And that's what gives you access to that 4G network. So EV drivers have real-time access to the data.
If I could, thank you for that answer. I want to give you and Joe a chance to talk about profit sharing for the program as people look at installing those. If I know you put in the chat, but can you verbalize that, you and Joe, if you can add yours as well?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, Joe, if you wanted to touch on that, yeah, go ahead, Joe.
Yeah. So our programs are slightly different in the way we do the profit share, but essentially what we do is we'll install equipment at no cost, and then we operate and maintain that equipment also at no cost for you for the term. So essentially out of pocket, there's nothing. And then as people use the chargers, they're paying for their vehicle to be charged. There's a market rate for that they're paying. And then we're sharing a percentage of our operating margin for that location with you. So you'll get a check essentially in the mail on a monthly basis, depending on the usage. So if there's more usage, the checks grow over time, and we would expect that to happen. And then same thing as Blink is we cover the cost of electricity. If we're on our own meter, we pay that utility company directly. If we're on your meter or a Pepco meter, then we do the same thing where the machines have built-in meters. We can tell how many kilowatts are consumed, and then we cut you a check on a monthly basis for the electricity as well. So that's the way our program's designed. I think Blink's is somewhat similar. They do the 50% share on the net revenue as well. So if you have any questions about that, or you want to know any further details, we can break it down for you further. But just to note back on the private/public parking, so not to shy away from the MAEP program, but both Blink and GreenSpot do private charging as well. So if you do have private parking, don't think that, oh, I can't get into one of these programs. Reach out to us, and we're happy to walk through that as well for private parking.
Yes, this program is really designed to make sure that the public has access to charging. So you can have as he indicated, you got property, you can have some that's for the public, you can have some that's for, just for certain folks on your property as well. So that's available. Next, I got a couple more questions. I did want to give a shout out to Cheryl, who she mentioned about how some of these smaller things can slow down the projects. Cheryl, did you want to add anything to that? Did we lose Cheryl? Trying to see if she's still on. Okay. All right, she'll come back. Then the other question we had was from Jeff, number of level 2. How many level 2 vendors are out there in the region? There are a lot of level 2 vendors. This call is full of level 2 vendors that are in the region. We will continue, Jeff, to get more of them on the platform. We will have different ones on every month. And as they become members, those that are members will get even more exposure. So, but there are a lot of level 2, and there are a lot of level 2 installers as well. Like Cheryl, no, you have the companies, and then the companies contract with people to install them. And we have a number of good local businesses that install them. There was a question from Marianne to everyone. Are there workforce shortages to install EV charging stations? And is there an opportunity to discuss opportunities to support this need? Any of you want to stab at that? I will just say from the Miekeyla, you want to say anything, or Joe or Andrew?
I would love to. For the workforce, there's no workforce shortage per se to install EV charging stations. I think more so the more the electricians are learning, right? And there is going to be a learning curve, but I wouldn't consider it a workforce shortage. What I would say is there are other things that there are shortages of because of the times that we're living in. It has nothing really to do with workforce as much as it has to do with impediments that come from natural disaster, impediments that are coming from the pandemic that we're in. So there are things that kind of block, for instance, there could be transformers on delay. Sometimes there are conduits that are backed up. A lot of times we're looking for more manufacturers and more devices. And then there's some manufacturers who are right there in the United States, but we don't know of them to hire them or to obtain their equipment. So there is a curve that's happening because this is relatively new. And when I say new, I mean, it's not something that happened yesterday, but it's relatively a new concept as it's within the past 10 years. So we're trying to elevate and push this initiative forward. But what you'll mostly see to support this need, what we really need is real estate. It really depends upon where you are in the District of Columbia. The number one delay to be able to have a higher infrastructure is the way that the real estate and the territories are set up. A lot of homes that don't have garages or patios, or what's the word I'm looking for? Car pads, or, you know, outside electric plugs, or everything being so built next to or on top of, unless you go into the suburbs or the surrounding areas, it puts you in a predicament where it's hard to install. And then everyone is flocking to, and not everybody actually lives in. So a lot of those are other issues that we're facing. But it wouldn't necessarily be the workforce shortage, because there's several electricians who are willing to do the job. But it's more so simply the times we live in, a time of inflation, a time of assets not being able to be produced because of other reasons, such as borders or sickness or illness, et cetera. So those are the issues that we're really facing, if that makes any sense at all.
All right, thank you. So let me just add to that. Our office has had at least 3 career fairs. We're doing working with IBW, EVSCs, majority and minority contractors, and EV installers. We had Cheryl Pons, who's from Diatech, who actually has installed them. She was actually recruiting. As we look at these big numbers that Andrew mentioned over the next 7 years, yes, there's going to be an explosion starting next year of demand for installation of chargers. So we will be working with some of the local community colleges, some of the workforce development programs, and mom and pop contractors to make sure that as the demand increases, that there's great inclusion, diversity in those in the marketplace, and making sure that, as some people may not want to go into underserved areas to do charging, that those communities are not left behind because people want to go to maybe Bowie as opposed to Ward 8. We want to make sure that people have access to those jobs and also to the services that come with EV charging. I want to go lastly, we're running out of time. So we will have some sessions on the other things. I want to thank everyone for being here today. Let's give our virtual hand clap to our panelists. They did a great job. I want you all to know that we will have a number of different sessions, everything from fleets and EV charging we're going to do a panel for municipalities that want to participate in the program. We're going to have Reverend Gilbert is working with us. We're going to have a session just for the churches, one for the nonprofits. A lot of nonprofits have, like not just churches, but other nonprofits have charging. Many of them want to have some conversation with us how they can participate in the program. So there's going to be a lot of outreach, a lot of deployment. And the number one thing that Ira talked about is, if you're interested, fill out the form, share that link, and we'll see you all next Thursday at 2:00 for our multi-unit dwelling session. I want to thank all the GWRCCC staff and consultants that are on the call, and have a wonderful day and a wonderful weekend. Take care and God bless. Bye-bye.